in racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael New Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last stunts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is The Magic Mike Show, coming to you on a Monday. Mr. Samich, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. It was a little bit of a rough weekend. There's a lot of close calls, but no big hits, and so that was a little frustrating. But it was a lot of quality horse racing action, so it was good to see some stars on display. Good to have the Racing Dudes team hit as well. So all in all, not too shabby of a weekend. How about yourself? How you living?
Pretty good, man. I had a pretty great weekend. Saturday was fun. If you were able to join us, we did a 3-hour live show during the Pegasus World Cup card with the races, which it didn't start out great with the inside information. I listened to Ricky's Rockets. Ricky, by the way, shout out to Ricky because he hit the late pick 4, 5, and 6 Saturday at Gulfstream. If you bought Ricky's Rockets, so he was red hot and he loved who was it, Pacific Gale, the one the inside information. I listened to him this morning explain how he got there. I still don't know how he got there without hitting the all button. Just for my handicapping style, I never would have hit that. But things started, turned around. We ended it pretty strong and then had a pretty good day yesterday too. So I'm excited to talk about some Pegasus action with you.
Yeah, it was a fun weekend from Gulfstream, man. It was Pacific Gale to me was almost ungettable without that all button, and I'm not getting to the rest of the sequence because I didn't love some of the later favorites, and so it would have been impossible for me to get there with Pacific Gale getting home. So honestly, the Rainbow Six the next day was more frustrating. Going 5 out of 6, 4 out of 5, 3 out of 4 in the pick 5, pick 4, and pick 6, and having the one race that I ended up missing is a 3-year-old turf race, maiden special weight, and pretty much every horse takes a bad trip except for the 2 horse who sits right behind the pace and scores at 15-1. And having multiple horses running after that one was a little frustrating, but it's horse racing, man. You need some racing luck every now and then.
Yeah, well, it happened a couple weeks ago where we got some really nice racing luck a couple of times, and it's like this isn't gonna last. This is gonna bite us in the ass pretty soon. So I remember now that you were so close. Sunday Slim was playing with you, and man, just getting that close. It's
pretty crazy too. After 2 races, 1% of the tickets were alive. Out of I think it was 10 million tickets were bet, and there was 100,000 live. So 1% after 2 races were alive in that Rainbow Six. So it would have been nice to get that puppy home, but on to next weekend.
Well, you didn't clean up that one. So what was the best thing you saw this weekend?
So the best thing I saw is actually today. I follow the stock market, but I'm not like a crazy stock market person. I have my money in just like the normal stuff, the S&P and everything else. I don't pretend to be an expert because honestly, there's people who do it all day and who manipulate the thing and move money around much more than I do. And trying to, catch the falling knife is not usually a great idea for an amateur. I don't know if you've heard about this, but there is a Reddit called Wall Street Bets. It's a subreddit forum, and someone decided, and this is a group of people who all decided to start putting money into the market once once everything hit here with having essentially working from home, and so they have a bunch of time on their hands. They pick stocks and just start blowing the thing up. Well, they got on CNBC today and all over the rest of the market because they took GameStop, which is a $4 stock and the number one shorted stock in the market, to $150. It hit 150 today at one point. It opened at 40 today and it got all the way to 150 because essentially all these hedge funds had it shorted and they blew it up so hard all the hedge funds had to cover their short and there weren't that many outstanding shares. So all these, they just buy. The top 5 stocks today, volume-wise, all because of this one board of normal, like average day Joes like you and me who are sitting at home buying stocks. And so it's incredible. One hedge fund lost $1.6 billion on this short alone. So it's crazy the amount of money that's going back and forth, all because your average Joes decide to gang up, pool all of their money into specific stocks, and just kill Wall Street. It's very, very interesting stuff. I did not have any piece of it, but it was fun to watch this whole thing go down today.
Wow, I had no idea that happened. I do remember that GameStop nearly went, just completely broke bankrupt, $0 trading. I remember that happening, but did not know that it had gone back up so high. Because I had a couple friends who joked about half joked about getting in on GameStop when they were around, I think like $5 or $6 trading.
Yeah, should have done it.
They probably should have. Shit, I don't know if they did or not. Well, I haven't heard from them in a while. Maybe they're living on yachts now. That's why I don't hear from them anymore.
Well, it's like terrible stocks too. It's AMC, Bed Bath and Beyond, GameStop, like companies that are absolutely like completely got destroyed by the pandemic. That no one really is that like. There's no business reason why they're buying these stocks. They're literally just trying to short squeeze hedge funds, and the buying power of this aggregate group of people is forcing hedge funds to sell out of their positions. It's amazing. It's cool stuff.
I love it. The best thing that I saw this week, I'm also going to go with something today, and I apologize. I meant to have props, and I forgot them. But my mom sent us something in the mail, and so we have a child, our first child along the way. And so every once in a while, one of our two mothers will just randomly send us a package, and we've kind of figured out that if we take pictures of it and excitedly text the other mother about, look at how great this thing is, it's so cool, that mother then just decides to. There's like a pattern here.
You got one up them.
They're trying to one up, and it's a very friendly thing. Our two mothers love each other, so
talk about market manipulation,
right? Well, we hit a new high with this one that came in because it was they're the newborn books where they're like the hard. You can't chew on them, can't get them, you can wipe them clean. All right, so one of them is my mom is a superhero, and it's Wonder Woman, and then the other one is my dad is a superhero and Superman, and it's just like you flip through it, and it's like showing Wonder Woman and Superman, like how they're helping all the other DC characters, like save them from things, and about how as a parent, like that role comes in, and I thought it was so cool, so creative. And also, I'm going full dad because I'm sitting here telling you that the best thing that I saw this weekend that wasn't horse racing related.
The kids' book.
Baby books that that are going to sit and collect dust for the next 3 months. Yeah.
It's pretty awesome, man. I have fallen in love with children's books. I'm not going to lie. I'm the one who reads to Lily every night. So we do 3 books before bed, and it's fun to kind of go through them. I highly recommend Ada Twist, Scientist, and Rosie Revere, Engineer. Those are good reads for the father and the daughter or the son. So it's a good time, man. And it's fun to get into the books. And it's funny how certain things all of a sudden become interests of yours when before you're like, I would not care a little bit about this at all. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, the second best thing that I saw was Aaron Rodgers getting embarrassed at home on national TV. I wanted it to happen at the Super Bowl. I wanted it to just be that much better when Jared's Chiefs repeat as Super Bowl champs. So we didn't get to have that to happen. I'm sure we'll talk about football afterwards because we did have some big action. So you have some football stuff. We'll save that for after the horse racing talk. But let's get into it, Mike. Riders up. All right, what was I going to – oh, yeah. Okay, so if you guys are watching live screw it. I'll have to do it for the podcast too because I didn't do it there. All right, to kick things off for the Magic Mike Show today, we're going to be each giving our 3 takeaways from the Pegasus World Cup card at Gulfstream Park on Saturday, January 23rd. It can be about a horse, a person, the day itself, whatever happened. So each of our 3 takeaways, things that we either appreciated, can learn moving forward. Mr. Samich, I'll turn it over to you. I don't know what your 3 are. This is different than doing the pick 4 where I know everything. I have no idea what you're going to say here. So your first takeaway.
First takeaway is their trainer of the year is going to be Brad Cox. He's going to win the Eclipse Award for 2022. I like, there's not that much in the older male division. And I bet Todd Pletcher is the one that gives him a run for the money because those two both had very big days or very big weekends, depending on how you want to look at it. But Brad Cox was able to get Knicks Go to just take it to another gear, take it to another level, set very quick fractions out front. In the Pegasus World Cup Invitational, and was able to just keep going. And so you got to think that Knicks Go, he's going to retire here, but you already have the biggest feather in your cap, or one of the biggest ones all year, early in the season. And so I think it's Brad Cox's world. We're all just living in it right now, which is kind of crazy to say.
Is he for sure going to retire? Do we know?
I mean, he was for sure going to retire after the Breeders' Cup Mile too.
Right.
So we'll see what happens. But
and that's what I thought. And then I thought they hinted that they were going to keep him around for more race. Figured it was going to be this one. And I haven't heard boo from a ghost about if he's retiring now. The only thing Brad Cox said is that he's the top older handicap male in the country. That was Brad Cox's quote. And I'm like, yeah, but are you retiring on top or what's going on? I have no idea what's happening. Maybe they're still talking about it.
I mean, I think they're going to run him again. I mean, just based on like not hearing it right afterward, you'd almost expect to hear, okay, Knicks Go's retired.
Yeah,
right?
Like going to Korea, they would build off of the momentum right there.
Yeah, but not hearing it right away when that was the original plan makes me think that the plan may be changing. So I would be surprised if we don't see Knicks go a couple more times this year. And I honestly, like, I hope we do, because the more people, more big time racehorses that stick around, the better in my mind. So I hope we do get them, because I don't want to be here. Like, imagine we're talking about like Jesus's team and Independence Hall as the top older males routing, and like, that's just not a discussion I want to be having.
Oh my God. Well, let's talk about that. The Pegasus World Cup. Unless did you specifically want to talk about anybody in this later on in this race?
No.
Okay, let's dive into it then. So Knicks Go obviously was a gate to wire winner. No surprise here, really. I mean, you might have hated the 6-5 price and tried to beat him, but Jesus's team, dude, this guy just keeps showing up. I mean, this is officially a fun horse if he wasn't already. He's not going to win these big Grade 1 races, but man, like, you can get him to like a Grade 2 race where he gets maybe a little bit of a softer field. He's going to break through. He's got that feeling like he's going to break through in a bigger race. Maybe not the Pegasus, but that was a great one. Independence Hall, everybody went, why the hell is he here? And McCarthy said, he's doing fine. Forget the Malibu. My question for you on this one, was McCarthy right? Do we forget the Malibu and say, hey, maybe he did okay? Or was this just a really bad field that he got lucky with?
I don't know. To be honest, like, out of this race, Independence Hall is probably the most confusing horse to me. My top four were Sleepy Eyes Todd, Code of Honor, Knicks Go, and Jesus' team. So I had the other four of the top five, and Independence Hall ends up, sticking his nose in there for third. And I really not sure what to do with this horse, because this horse wanted nothing to do with the distance as a 3-year-old, and now all of a sudden runs probably the best race of his career here, going a mile and 1/8 around 2 turns. And so, like, it'll be really interesting to see where Independence Hall comes back. I'll tell you this much, like, because of how this thing ran, and because he was pretty forwardly placed, no one was really coming home from the back. It's kind of a merry-go-round race in a way. I'm not so sure that I want any piece of Independence Hall next time, especially at a shorter price. But I think a lot of it is going to be field dependent, and we're going to see really what they come back with, and where Independence Hall ends up. Like, are we going to see like Independence Hall in all the top tier Grade 1 races? Because that's what you'd assume based off this performance, right?
Maybe. It's hard because if California had one-turn dirt mile, even at one of their tracks, I would say that'd be a great spot for him, because I could see them aiming for the Met Mile off of this. Like, I think that's a good place to aim, something longer than 6 or 7 furlongs. But when you're routing against tougher horses, maybe horses that are currently on the sideline right now, I don't think he's strong enough for that one. Jesus' team, by the way, they're waiting for invitations to either the Saudi Cup or the Dubai World Cup. They're waiting for both of those because they didn't get any initial invitation, but we'll see what happens there. If he goes, especially to Saudi, that's a 1-turn, 1 1/8 race. I bet this guy who rode him in the Pegasus is going to want to ride him again. I bet Irad's going to want to get back on and see if he can win the Saudi Cup, because he didn't last year.
We talked quite a bit about this horse on Thursday. I mean, like, I poo-pooed all over this horse in the Preakness, poo-pooed all over it in the Breeders' Cup. Like, at this point, you can't really do that, and that's why I ended up using the horse here. And like, this is the same exact that came back in the Breeders' Cup Mile. You saw it again here, and so like, you can't really look, if you like Knicks Go, and a lot of people do, you can't really poo-poo Pegasus' team anymore. Like, you got to give the horse credit at this point. And if Knicks Go doesn't go to Saudi, which I assume he won't, we're probably going to see a Baffert over there. That'll probably be your favorite. But Jesus' team has to be one of those top betting choices, and I think the 1 1/8 1-turn hits him right between the eyes.
The last thing we want for the Pegasus here, Code of Honor. When we were doing the live show, we were doing the live draft, and you and Vinny both really wanted Code of Honor to be on our team, on our pick 4 that we were putting together. And I said, I don't want anything to do with them. Jesus' team or Harper's First Ride. Now, thankfully, you let me make the decision, and we went with Jesus' team as the tiebreaker instead of Harper's First Ride, because that could have just been bad. But Jesus' team got up for second. Code of Honor, still nothing. So at this point, what the hell do you do with Code of Honor?
I don't know. I mean, I hadn't used this horse in over a year. So like to me, I thought the pace was going to set up well for this horse, and you'd see more horses coming from the back in this spot. You didn't do that. I mean, some of them made up some ground, but no one really had a chance at winning the race that was off the pace. I mean, Code of Honor is just like, I compared this horse to Tacitus. I would compare this horse to Tacitus again. Code of Honor is one of those horses that I think is going to win a Grade 1 against a really bad field. And that's like, other than that, this is a Grade 2, Grade 3 horse that's running in a lot of Grade 1s and picking up paychecks.
Yeah, what was it the Westchester, the Dwyer? It's too bad he ran here because the toboggan handicaps at Aqueduct next month or next week. That could be a spot he could have won. But by the way, showing up in the chat here, Brady Klotz, shout out, man. Nick's going on my favorite horse of all time. He says, Mike, what's the reason for Mr. Klotz to be so in love with Nick's Go?
I wouldn't blame him, man. When you bring home second in the Pegasus Invitational or Pegasus Betting Challenge, and Nick's Go is a big key to that, cashing you, I think, what was it, over 15,000, and end up the day with over 50 grand. Congratulations, man. That is absolutely awesome. I'm glad you're able to get it done, and thanks for listening, coming on. It's awesome to see. It's awesome to see people get into tournaments when they hear us talk about it and see people have huge scores. And I got to say, like, that. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Brady, but I believe that was his first real money tournament, and he went in there guns blazing, which I was super proud of. Like, you got to go in there okay to lose. You have to be okay with losing the whole bankroll. You have to hammer your opinions, and he was playing big time doubles, big time exactas, and that's what got the job done.
Wow, first live money tournament, and that's. Wow.
Not bad.
Can we take credit for that? Because he doesn't have any experience to base off of. He's learned everything about live money tournaments from listening to the Magic Mike show. So can we take credit and therefore 10%?
I don't know about 10%, maybe 1.
That's great. So one of my takeaways, this happens a lot, Mike. It's so frustrating when you look at a sequence like this Pick 4 sequence and you're like, there's one race like the Pegasus World Cup Turf where like there's so many good, there's no superstar standout. I could make a case for so many different horses here, and we're 4 deep, 5 deep, 6 deep in the tickets. And this is the race that comes across with the favorite, who you and I on the show we used, but neither of us were excited because we especially didn't love the price. I didn't love that he was facing older horses in a Grade 1 or in any stakes level for the first time in this spot. Doesn't matter there. He ends up winning. Todd's Squad is great. Largent's great. What I hate is that I called my shot before we went on air for Thursday's show. I texted Dr. Tang, and I said, looking at this sequence, I bet you anything I'm going to sweep the final 3 legs, and this stupid inside information is going to crush me. And from a handicapping perspective, I'm so mad because if I had known that the favorite was going to win the damn Pegasus World Cup Turf, I would have gone deep in this spot, and I probably would have cashed my ticket. But it didn't work out there. So we can use this to talk a little bit about the inside information. You and I did not see Pacific Gale coming. Nobody else saw her coming either. She wins by almost 3 lengths here. What was your kind of takeaway from the inside information?
Well, it's a little frustrating because I was able to get away from Honey Bunny or Cinnabunny, and I singled up the 4 here. This is my time, and like the horse was done on the turn. It ends up running second in this spot. Like this is just like the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. Like there's a lot of horses that just seem to win at prices in these type of races because we talked about this on the show that the key to this race was the 7 furlong distance. And that is really what the key to this race was because Cinnabunny looked like a winner 5 furlongs in if they were going 6, but that extra furlong caused a lot of trouble and the anchor dropped pretty quickly there. This is my time liked it a little bit more. And Pacific Gale 0 for 7 at the distance. Like I like and never had closed like that. It'd always been close to the pace of 7 furlong. So this is one where you just kind of throw your arms in the air. And, I decided to take a stand in here. I would have had to hit the all button to get to Pacific Gale. And, the only way I hit the all button is if I single Largent, and Largent didn't win either. So this is one of those sequences where you look at in the rearview mirror and you say, okay, I went through and I looked at the PPs. I spent about 15 minutes looking at this race after the race was over to try and figure out, okay, what did I miss? And what I missed was I would never end up with Pacific Gale without the all button. I mean, that really is just the bottom line. Sometimes you look at these and there isn't a reason for you. The reason is Pacific Gale ran a career best, and that career best came in a new route, new style of running. And maybe that's what Pacific Gale needed to do, but it's really hard to get to that horse, assuming all that is going to come together at 16-1.
I would not have. So I did the same thing. I kind of looked back, like what you were just talking about. How would I have gotten to this horse differently? I still would have gone 5, 6, 7, or 5, 6 deep in the Pegasus World Cup Turf. I would have looked at that and said, there's too many horses at good prices, like they're being undervalued. You have to take those because from a long-term perspective, your ROI is going to benefit from that. If I was going to do something different, maybe single up tax. or I'm sorry, not tax, Knicks Go. The big reason I didn't was because of tax. I saw his Harlan's Holiday Stakes, and I was like, he looks incredible. This is going to be second off the layoff. How does he not improve? You were very much against tax. After the Harlan's Holiday, it proved out well. He ended up not running well again. But I'm with you. Hats off to Ricky. I would say hats off to Vinny because I think he had Pacific Gale second. But Vinny had the chance to draft her under our pick 4 ticket, and he didn't. So Vinny gets no
love.
No love from me for that one. No.
Well, it's frustrating too because like Tide of the Sea runs huge, and like and that horse ran big for Mike Maker, and that's one that we were all over. And so like there was a route to be short here. It just for me it would have been really, really tough without Largent winning, because that's where I was I got to Knicks Go, but I'm going 4 deep to get to Knicks Go. I'm never, like me personally, never singling Knicks Go. So it would have been very hard to but to go short there, and then you had to get Largent home, and then you have to hit the all button to get Pacific Gale, and that's kind of how you get to it. And the frustrating part is, I mean, it didn't pay that much. That's the other thing. Is this like with a 16-1 shot in these big competitive fields, because it went favorite. I think the pick 5 only paid like $1,100, which better than losing, but it's not that pick 5 that we expected with these 12 horse by 12 horse fields to close it out.
Hey, breaking news here. Dr. Tang's wife, which I knew was we were waiting any day for her to go into labor. She just went into labor, so he's signing off. So good luck to Dr. Tang and his wife, and hopefully we'll hear from him again soon. That's pretty awesome.
Get some sleep. Get ready.
We've been talking back and forth as expecting first-time fathers. We're like, you ready for this? You ready for this? And we both go, no, we're not ready for anything. We'll see what happens.
It's amazing how much your instincts kick in. You're not ready, but you're prepared, and you don't even know it.
That's what I'm hoping. That's the only thing that's keeping me going forward. You, sir, you've had plenty of practice with a daughter already, so you're used to getting to sleep when you can. Your second takeaway from Gulfstream.
Sometimes on these big days, I got to start eating chalk. And that was one of the things that I kind of took away from this. It's one of those where I didn't like it at the Breeders' Cup, and there's a couple horses there. But right now we have some horses that are just better than the rest, and it's tough to beat them. And so looking at horses like Knicks Go, it's one of those where I look back at my handicapping style from over the weekend, and maybe I should have taken a few more of the favorites. And that is not my normal style, but I think on these big days, what we're seeing pan out is that some of these big trainers are putting big horses out there, and they're just not getting beat at short prices. And you saw that with Gamine, and you saw that with Authentic, and you saw that now with Knicks Go. And like at some point you got to say, okay, I'm going to try and bet $3, $4, $5 pick 5s, and I'm going to hammer those favorites and those legs, and I'm going to try and get to prices in others. Because if you let's say Tide of the Sea doesn't win. I'm sorry. Let's say Pacific Gale doesn't win. Let's say This Is My Time does win. The rest of that sequence is very gettable for $5. That's what I kind of look at when you look back at this. Where if on a better day, let's say Largent ends up beating Colonel Liam, and both of them ran their eyeballs out. But let's say Largent beats Colonel Liam, and I single Knicks Go at the end. It's not unconceivable to hit a $5 pick 5 there, and all of a sudden, that $1,000 payoff is $10,000 for a $100 ticket. And so I think maybe just adjusting the betting style a little bit on these bigger days, and kind of saying, all right, like these speed horses that are coming from specific trainers are crushing it on the front end on these big days. Ride with them instead of trying to beat them, and just hammer it a few more times.
That's it. Yeah, I never thought I'd hear you say that before. Yeah, sometimes I've noticed that too. The trend of there's being sometimes it gets so heavy with the chalk in these spots, and it can be frustrating because, again, like right here with Colonel Liam, 5-2 favorite in we all were saying this was the deepest, best betting opportunity on the whole card, and you go favorite and third choice, like 1-2 were there. So yeah, sometimes I guess you got to hate that. I don't know. What
about how'd the second choice do?
Boy, I was looking at that one too. He was something terrible, and so was the other California horse. They were both bet. I mean, at least your California horse, Storm the Court, did what he was supposed to do, which was go to the front, try to get an easy lead, and if he's good enough, hold on. He wasn't good enough. He didn't hold on, although he didn't miss by a whole lot. He was in that huge blanket photo for third. But, yeah, say the word, another twist of fate. Yeah, nope. Go back to California, boys. Go back.
It's amazing because another twist of fate, and everyone in the guide liked him, and we talked about it on the live show. Like, he fit from a buyer's perspective, he fit from a pace perspective, he fit from but he's just not good enough. And it's amazing how this consistently happens, where just for some reason they're just not good enough. And yeah, like I was frustrated when I saw the 23 and change Storm the Court because I thought that Storm the Court could try and get an easy lead. And I actually liked how Leparoux rode the horse out of the gate. If you watch it, he kind of rides him to about a quarter of a length lead, doesn't try and stretch that lead out too early, tries to use as little as possible the horse, but just got too much pressure early. So you kind of knew Storm the Court was going to fold around the turn. And honestly, when Largent added the racing stripe, scraping the paint there on the inside, as soon as he got that hole, I thought he was home. And Colonel Needham absolutely rolled on the outside. And, it was one of those where, like, I didn't think that, I didn't like Colonel Liam at 5-2. I didn't like Colonel Liam as the favorite because of who Colonel Liam had faced. I didn't think he'd beaten much, and he didn't have a buyer. You need to improve to really compete with Largent, and he did exactly that. So it was more of I'm trying to beat a price than I'm trying to, dislike the horse. And it's going to be interesting where both these horses go because Largent is a very good horse. Colonel Liam is a very good horse. It's going to be fun to see where these two horses go and how Pletcher handles the Chad Brown problem of having multiple top horses in the turf division and where you spot each of them to try and keep them away from each other, because there's not that many $1 million turf races that you want them running 1-2, and you want to split them up and spread them out.
I was just looking here. So there are 4 California horses there, and the only one neither of us used was Next Shares, and he finishes the best. He was one that I'm kind of curious. I can never get this horse right. And he's in a lot of big races. He goes to Keeneland a lot for Baltus. He's in California normally at all those big turf races. I can never get this horse right. When I play him, he runs terrible. Here, I think if you look at the running line, Mike, for him to be second to last almost all the way around and then come up and he misses third by a half a length and 2 necks. I mean, he's within a length of third in a Grade 1 race like this. But then are we going to see him, he's 51-1 in this spot. Are we going to see him get way over bet in the next spot and he throws up a dud? Horses like this drive me nuts.
I mean, I don't really care about Next Shares. I'm sorry.
It just was me looking at it.
Go back to California, and then we can talk about you when you're going a mile and a quarter or whatever on the Santa Anita turf, down the hill a little bit and around in a circle, and you're competitive. Like, let's go back to that. Like, because, the horse ran on and finished 6th. It didn't even make the Super High Five. Like, we're talking it up because the California horse almost hit the Super High Five in this race. Like, let's keep everything in perspective. I do want to say one thing is interesting here. C-Mel Yellow calling this out. Is Pletcher closing the gap here on Brown on the turf? With the male division, heck yeah. Like, I think that gap is definitely closed. And to be honest, and I talked about this in the last show, I'm going to keep hyping on this. Chad Brown is on the struggle bus at Gulfstream Park right now. Like, he's sitting in the front seat of the struggle bus. None of his first-time stars are firing. He's not able to get anyone home. He's had multiple horses like not fire at all as 3-year-olds. His horses coming off a layoff running on the turf are getting bet and running clunkers. Like, he's almost a Chuck right now across the board at Gulfstream, which is absolutely crazy to say about Chad Brown. Because like we saw Pletcher have this struggle in like 2019, I think it was. And now it's interesting to see Chad Brown kind of go through it because he's just nothing is getting home. It doesn't matter if it's Klarovich. It doesn't matter who it is. He just cannot get a horse to winner's circle right now at Gulfstream.
I mean, not too sad about that. Not going to shed too many tears. As soon as I finish shedding tears for Bob Baffert and Fenway, I'll move on to Chad Brown. Second takeaway for me, Mike. This overall day, this is what this card, and you talked about it when we were doing the Thursday Pick 4 preview. The best thing that you saw was this card. I think that this card is exactly what the Pegasus should aim to be moving forward. When they first came out, it was just the one race on dirt. You had to pay $1 million to enter your horse, and it was like a draft system, and only the certain owners and it was this whole big elite thing. And after 2 years, it completely fell apart. So then they threw in the turf race, which was better, but again, still it wasn't working quite as well. Too much money was in it. It wasn't quite flowing well. We get to this year, and from the first race all the way through the last one, you had big favorites winning for the people that like to play chalk. You had price horses coming in like Pacific Gale. We got to see a horse named Prevalence make his debut. That, holy shit, what a splash that debut was. Just overall, for us to be in late January, that Aaron talked about some blinkers off. It's late January. This used to be, before my time in horse racing, a dead time. You were slowly waiting for those Derby preps to come around. But now you've got a $3 million dirt race, $1 million turf race, 7 graded stakes in total, a lot of them right in that middle range that will help horses who are in form continue to do well and run for bigger money. You'll also have horses that are trying to get into form, try and build their season. So I think if they stop trying to make this a $16 million race, a $9 million race, if this is their focus, top to bottom, a strong card, this is going to be such a big successful event moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I love that horse racing has adopted over the last 4 or 5 years are these monster days. We talk about Stars and Stripes Festival at Belmont. We talk about some of the monster days at Saratoga. Churchill now does it with the Derby. Man, like they're doing it with the Pegasus, where we have these 7 graded stakes up and down the card, and it creates really good betting races. And this one specifically, I mean, you nailed it. This is a dead time for us. There's not a lot going on. And having the Champions League come through with something like this, which kind of sets up the Fountain of Youth Day and then sets up Florida Derby Day, it's really exciting to have all of these monster races back to back to back. And Gulfstream does a great job of then having like mandatory payout on the Sunday so people still pay attention. So just a lot of really cool stuff going on. And I definitely applaud them for putting this together in January because it's just what we need. Like it's a nice way to kind of end that January month.
Yeah, it was really great. Before I get to my last takeaway, Mike, your takeaway, please.
Sometimes it pays to put in the work. That's my last takeaway. And this one is Eye of the Jedi, man. We were all over this horse on the podcast. If you go back and listen to the Harlan's Holiday, and this is why it's important to follow one specific track. We talked about Tax. We talked about Harlan's Holiday, or we talked about Eye of the Jedi. We talked about Fat Man, and we talked about why you want Eye of the Jedi in the cutting that back on Pegasus Day specifically. And he ran his eyeballs out at 12-1, almost ends up beating Performer. Performer's on top in the guide. Performer I ended up using on top in the guide, but Eye of the Jedi was that 2 pick. And this exacta comes back and pays well. And Eye of the Jedi ran a monster race. And it's nice when you follow a track and you're able to look at these horses run race after race after race and specifically say, this horse, this day, this distance, you got to play this horse back. And Eye of the Jedi was like, I thought he was home at 12-1. I thought I had a nice little win play show bet on this horse. So I would have been very happy if this horse had gotten home. Also used it in every one of my tournaments. And man, it was tight. But I know a lot of people had big exactas here with Performer to Eye of the Jedi. And, I'm happy that people cashed it from the guide. I know that Brady had it there. I had a couple other people hit me up, said they played it big. So I'm happy that it paid off for all the Magic Mike listeners here that Eye of the Jedi came through big time.
Yeah, you have a 4-5 favorite that tops off a $15 exacta for $1. You're getting 15 times return with a 4-5 favorite on top, and 13-1, almost 14-1, but not the longest shot in the field. You have much longer shots could have gone there. Boy, this is going to lead into my best thing, so my biggest takeaway that. If you watch the live show all the way through to the end on Saturday, first of all, God bless you. I was there for the whole time, and I kept
got off the rails a couple times.
Yeah, but it was fun. But that whole day showed me that the Racing Dudes team, and you guys are just watching us live or listening to the podcast. You probably know this, but this is the best team in racing. I mean, you don't have the Blood Horse people doing this. You don't have the DLA Racing Form people doing this. You don't have Equibase people. Twin Spires, they try, but god damn, they need some personalities on their shows. My point is, we're a group that we all came together because we love horse racing, and we're a little younger, but we bring a lot of energy and enthusiasm for it. And so when you have someone like, what's that?
Most of us have the energy.
How dare you? Because Ricky, like I said, hit the pick 4, pick 5, pick 6. Ricky is starting to realize that everybody's been kind of teasing him, and Ricky's starting to show a little bit of a heel side, which is nice, which makes things more fun. The live bankroll wagering article that they did in the guide that Aaron and Jared did for the second time has now paid off really strong. It worked really well at the Breeders' Cup, and it worked here. And I texted them privately afterwards. I was like, I meant what I said, that it was so fun doing the live bankroll article with the guys, because it's like we were all at the track pooling our money, playing together, which is the first few times I went to the track with those guys, what we did. And it was just like, I've never had the strength of character to do a $100 win bet on a horse. And when Performer is coming down the stretch and he is like trying as hard as he can to lose this to Eye of a Jedi, who I also really loved in this race. I think I had him second in the guide. I was panicking, but if that was my actual money that I had done, I would be throwing up midway home. But because Aaron and Jared had said very confidently, this horse is going to win. They didn't say by how much, but they did say this horse was going to win. And so because of those guys, like I cashed a $100 bet. Like I made back almost the entire bankroll for the entire article, betting $100 to win on a horse that was 4-5. So between that, Slim's calls, having you on with the live show with Vinny and Ricky, like it was just, the whole thing was fun. And it just once again reminded me that it's just freaking awesome to be part of this group. So that was my biggest takeaway from the weekend.
Yeah, it's been fun to see the growth, and to have like even the Rocket Hour in the morning, and Aaron and Ricky talking about what races you use what type of tickets in. If you want to go with trifectas or exactas or pick threes or pick fours, it's been fun to kind of just all around see the team grow and do these live shows, and obviously doing the Magic Mike show live has been great. Like I love having all these comments and having everyone pop up and join in and ask questions. It's really cool to see people going after different tournaments and NHC and seeing people in the Pegasus and having people comment and jump in when they're in the different horse players or the horse tourneys tournaments with me. And it's just a blast to kind of interact with everybody. It's been awesome to see the team grow in size and also scope of like how everyone plays, because it's like, I'm a big bankroll player. I can handle losing multiple days in a row to try and get that big score home. I know we have smaller bankroll players on the team. Slim is trying to play these skinny pick fours and pick fives to crush, and skinny exactas and trifectas to crush. And Aaron and Jared are putting together a strategy with large win bets on favorites, but on good favorites to try and help you get that money back. And so they're not, they're trying to put a good ROI together and cash a lot of tickets, but not necessarily for the same massive amount. And so it's fun to have different people with different strategies all on the same team talking about why they're utilizing those, because hopefully it allows people to pick up the most and understand kind of where they fit and how they can sharpen up, because like we all learn from each other, and that's the cool part. No matter what you're doing, everyone can keep learning.
All right, next thing we're going to do, we talked about the Pegasus. Let's also, Mike, take a look at what's going on with the Kentucky Derby field. Still early, still late January. Usually the way recent trends go, Mike, we don't see the Kentucky Derby winner emerging now, but we did get to see a few performances we wanted to touch on. First, let's talk about Caddo River. This was a legit Kentucky Derby prep race at Oaklawn Park, kicking things off for their opening day card this past Friday. 10 points to Caddo River for winning it. I pulled up the preview instead of the recap article. I wrote there it is. Let me pull that up while I talk about it. Anyways, Caddo River, gate to wire. The fractions were slow, but then we saw that 8 furlong starter allowance race right after it that came back, I think, a fifth of a second even slower than what this one was. So what are your initial thoughts on Caddo River with what you saw in the Smarty Jones?
I did exactly what he was supposed to do and took a step forward and probably makes the Derby gate, but I'm not really ready to judge him too much more around this effort. This is one of those where you just want to check the box and move on. And that's exactly what Caddo River was able to do. Didn't beat a ton here. You actually had multiple horses get 0 buyers coming back. So I don't want to like crown him at this point, but I do, he did, you can only beat who's in the race, and you can only do it so impressively. And he did everything he was supposed to here. So I think this is one of those that is a legit gate contender. I'm not sure necessarily we put Caddo River on top. But I think that Caddo River is one of those maybe superfecta players in the Derby, somewhere in that range, unless we see some big time improvement.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think when I first saw it, I saw the fractions, and they kept going slower and slower and slower. And immediately I was like, guys, this was a really slow race. And then I remember it's his first time routing. And then Aaron, I brought up when we were texting, he said, coming up next is another race. Older males, good older males, watch the time, because what happens with that time will dictate what kind of a buyer Caddo River gets. And they beat that time. Froster Frippery got the job with a really nice dink and duck move in the stretch run. But
of course, loves to win.
But Caddo River gets and I'm with you. I think at this point we can say he did what he needed to do. There wasn't anything in that field, and he beat it like there wasn't anything in that field. He didn't do anything wrong. I didn't see any issues with his conformation, with his stride. He wasn't changing leads improperly. When Giroux asked him, he responded, and I think that's the takeaway. And you move on to the Rebel.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, as Brian mentioned here in the chat, he beat a turf horse, and he's totally right. But he beat him impressively and did what he was supposed to do. And so it's like, okay, I'm not going to take a ton away from this, but I'm also not going to poo-poo the horse for doing his job.
Right. Let's go back to talking about Prevalence, who was at Gulfstream Park on Saturday's card. Race 6, I'm going to pull up this. This is one of my favorite websites to go to. The TDN has this thing called the Rising Stars, where they take a look at if a horse does really well when it's younger. They're really good at identifying a potential future graded stakes winner. I will say they're not batting 1,000, because they had Staying Out Late listed on this race after his debut last year, and let's just say that didn't turn out too well. But hey, Prevalence, this is a Medaglia d'Oro out of a Ghost Zapper mare. This is a Godolphin homebred. This is Brendan Walsh trained. Everything about this says this horse should have been drafted on Jared Welch's team, right?
Yep.
What did you think about his win there? Because we also had the mile in the 16th race, but here this seemed like the bigger one. You got 11 horses. You had Stage Raider, who's Justify's half brother, but Chad Brown not doing so hot right now. You had Ghazali, who's this $1 million horse with Todd Pletcher, but those $1 million horses, we've learned the hard way, don't usually pan out like you would think they would. They don't have a very strong strike rate. So your thoughts on the 6th race and that huge win by Prevalence?
Yeah, I think this was a tougher field than what we saw Caddo River beat, right? I mean, when you look at this, it's a tough 7 furlong race, which is not the easiest distance to debut at here. And it's one of those where, like, sometimes I'll say you have to watch the board in these 3-year-old races, these maiden races, and that's how you can figure out who to bet. This was one of the greatest examples I've ever seen. Because you have Brendan Walsh with a Godolphin horse, right? Which is not necessarily the combination you think of from a Derby perspective. The inside horse switches from the Stanley Huff barn to the Palisa barn and gets bet down from 15-1 to 7-2. So a ton of money's going that way. You have $1 million Pletcher. You have, like you said, Brown with Justify's half brother. And somehow this horse goes from 12-1 morning line down to 7-1. That's a lot of money to take considering everything else that's going on. It kind of tipped the hand that this horse is going to be able to run. It's frustrating that this was the second leg of a pick 4. Couldn't be the first one because then it's a lot easier to get this horse on your pick 4 ticket. But I was really impressed. I mean, this was one of those debuts where we've talked about this before on big days. A lot of times you're going to see big 3-year-olds debut. Obviously, this is one that they're looking to keep in the Florida circuit, run into the Fountain of Youth, run into the Florida Derby, eventually move on from there. Yeah, the buyer didn't come back as big as the Great One, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure. But I think there's runners in here. I think that, Gasly is a good runner. I think that the brown horse, Stage Raider is a good runner. And not just that. I mean, like, you had like full court press. You had Marching. You had Traveler. This was a good field. Like, it's one of those that you look at and you're like, okay, one of these horses is going to have a rocket up its ass. Which one is it? And in this case, it was Prevalence. And I don't see why you would be against Prevalence. I mean, obviously, like, the Hidden Scroll thing is interesting because a lot of people immediately compare it to Hidden Scroll. Hidden Scroll freaked more and did it in the mud. And to me, there's a little difference there. This is more of a consistent effort, and it's more of one of those where, like, okay, I can see why after the race, why this horse could be a superstar. When you look at the breeding, when you look at where it came from, and you say, okay, he did it over a fast track against a good field. I think this is going to end up being a key race. I think you're going to see multiple horses win next out of this race. And because of that, I think you have to respect Prevalence. Now, am I saying Prevalence is the Derby favorite and should be right up there with Life is Good and all that? No, like, with everyone grain of salt, right? Take a step back. Is this a Derby contender though? Oh, heck yeah. I mean, this is one of the better 3-year-olds we've seen this year.
Yeah, so far, I'm right with you. I think as far as if you start on January 1st, I'm with you. This is the best performance from a 3-year-old that we've seen. At least I will say Caddo River winning like he did was really, like, I watched the replay again today, and it was a really nice win. But again, he didn't beat anything, and I'm with you. I think of the 3 races we're going to talk about, this being the second, this is the best field. One last note, I always like to, when I'm looking at horses, to figure out what do the connections think about? Obviously, it's a Godolphin homebred, so they are going to be putting their good mares with their good sires. So if you look at who else he's going to be related to, he's got a younger half brother who's by Quality Road, and then Frosted and Uncle Mo. So lots of really good talent being used for this mare. So if you like to play the long game, Mike, let's stable up that 2-year-old half brother by Quality Road. See if we can get him in the 4th round in next year's draft. No, let's do it the 2nd round because Aaron won't have heard of that horse either. So that's usually how that goes for our 2nd round.
Well, I'm in. Add it to your spreadsheet, Magic. We'll have that be Donkey A. The other thing is that Walsh is not good first time out. We're talking like sub 10%. And so to have this horse geared up like this on a big day, I mean, that to me tells you, like, I expect this horse to take a step forward because Walsh is better second time out. So that to me is the other thing, is that this was, like, in hand for a trainer that doesn't crush first time out on a monster day. Like, it's a lot of things to like. A lot of things to like about Prevalence.
Prevalence gets an 89 buyer, right, for getting that win. Caddo River, I want to say, was right around 89. Let's look at who had the best. I'm pulling it up right now. My computer's slow. That's why I don't have it. But let's look at who actually got the best buyer of the 3-year-olds that raced. Let's talk about the Great One. Boy, pretty great against a 4-horse field that had a Baffert horse that you want to talk about disappointments. I think you and I were about the only ones who weren't disappointed with Fenway's just absolute shit brick of a performance. While my computer struggles to load here, there it is. The Great One gets the win by 14 lengths. Gets I want to say it was a 92 buyer. There it is. 92 buyer, the best that we saw of these horses. So the Great One, we said it was Caddo River. What the hell did he beat? But your thoughts on the Great One moving forward?
I mean,
That's strong.
So does this mean that Spielberg's a monster? Because Spielberg beat the Great One last time out. Like, are we like so? No, I'm good. I'm going to play against the Great One next time out. I got no interest. Like this was the fourth effort or fifth effort to break the maiden. Lost to Spielberg and Los Al. Yeah, it was a grade one, or graded stakes, but it was still a loss to Spielberg, who we both have talked about quite a bit on this show, and how that horse has not lived up to expectation. Let's say that Fenway didn't have all the hype. Would this be an impressive win? Like what would this horse have gone off at if Fenway wasn't hyped as much as it was? If we had known Fenway was going to run slower than me, would we really have would this be that great of a performance? The answer is no. And so now you look at this and what did the Great One beat here? Yeah, he won by 14 lengths. Yes, he did his job, but he beat a field of maidens, not a stakes field. He did it going easily within a 4-horse field with never really relinquishing the lead. This horse just ran away from him. I realize it's that Fenway had the lead around the first turn, but as soon as he relinquished it, and there was no pressure here against the Great One, and he was able to just run away from him. So this is one of those where prove it to me. Yes, the horse could be talented. We talked about this on live stream. It's owned by Eric Johnson, who's a Colorado Avalanche D-man, who names all of his race horses after hockey players. And if he's going to name one after Wayne Gretzky and name it the Great One, you have to think there's a ton of talent. Goes to the O'Neill barn. So I would definitely think there's some skill here. But I'm not taking a short price on this horse next time out. I got no interest in that. So this is going to be very price dependent on whether or not I think this horse is worth playing back. And I have no interest in the Derby.
I'm with you. We'll see what he does against the good Bafferts here, because that was not a good Baffert. You mentioned Eric Johnson. I'm going to correct you. He doesn't name all of his horses after hockey players, just the good ones. There's not a hockey player named Lazy Daisy, I believe. So
that's actually one of his teammates' nicknames.
Wait, really?
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, I was like, I don't know. He used to play for the Blues. Maybe you had some insight on that.
I don't think he didn't. He also was a co-owner there. The ones that he fully owns, they're all horses. They're all hockey players.
He is a big Wayne Gretzky fan, as most all hockey players are.
Number one overall draft pick by the Blues. I've met him before. Good guy.
I think he's good friends with Gretzky, too, if I remember correctly. That's not what I meant to do. Stand by. I was trying to pull up the damn Kentucky Derby future wager here so we can talk about that one. Basically, the 9-5 favorite at the end of it, while I pull this up, is still all of the 3-year-olds, which is interesting because this time you did have Life is Good. Essential Quality still in there. Concert Tour was added to this after his really sharp maiden win. Caddo River still in here. Keep me in mind. But 9-5 favorite. Basically, Mike, my first question is, of the 22 single betting horse options here, would you rather bet that one of those 22 is going to win the Derby, or is the 9-5 favorite all of the 3-year-olds? Is that the correct play after the second Kentucky Derby future wager pool?
I would never bet this pool, to be honest with you. I don't think there's any value. I don't think 9-5 is valuable. I would say that it's a rightful favorite, because you're getting all of these horses, and out of this future pool where we have 23 other entrants, maybe 6 make the gate to the Derby, maybe 5. So literally you're lighting money on fire on over 3/4 of this field. And so for me, that makes it really tough to bet anyone in here because the horses that I would like are Essential Quality. I'm not taking 8-1 on that horse right now. It's just way too early. There's too many ways that horse doesn't end up at the Derby. I mean, you think about Omaha Beach, you think about just some of these stars that we've seen that didn't make it out of the gate because of injuries or whatnot. And so I'm not interested in 7-1 on Life is Good, 8-1 on Essential Quality, 13-1 on Caddo River. Bezos is insane at 26-1. The horse hasn't even debuted yet. So these future pools to me are really, really tough, especially the way that this was handled last year, where you bet it. The future pool 2 closed in late January, and your bet was good for the first weekend in September when the Derby was last year. That's crazy to me that you're essentially holding your money hostage for that long. And the pool was only 600,000 or only 200,000 too. So you can't even put a $1,000, $2,000 bet down and take a huge swing. You affect the odds too much. You're really screwing yourself over by betting that much money in this small of a pool.
Remember Authentic, if you had bet Authentic to win the Derby, say this pool, so after he wins the Sham Stakes, and then you're holding on to that, and you watch how he progresses, and you're like, yeah, Baffert's going to get him to peak in the Kentucky Derby, and then it keeps getting dragged out, and you see him almost lose the Haskell. How many times are you getting sick to your stomach thinking that you've got this ticket that is just you did it at a short price, and damn it, it's holding out. You're probably feeling pretty lucky when you get to September and he still wins, but that's also to Mike's point. Especially with these pool 2 odds, either take a huge swing or don't swing. Don't swing at these. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, like maybe you take a swing with like Proxy at 76-1, something like that. And you like, but I mean, I don't even really like Proxy that much, but I'm just giving you an example of like, that's the type of swing that I would want to take here. Maybe Spielberg at 47-1, and somehow that horse figures it out, right? It's tough because you bring up Authentic. What was Authentic's odds in that second pool? Do you have any idea? I mean,
They
it's
were
like,
really, I want to say they were low. He was around like 8. He and Tiz the Law were in Charlotte.
so,
They were like 8-10-1.
and he goes off at 8-1 on the Derby. So you essentially got zero value 9 months later. That's just like long term. That's going to really end poorly for you. So like,
It's going to end poor for you right here. You're just going to die from it.
So I mean, I love these. I think these future pools are fun, especially if you can like get some lock-ins there. But it's tough, man, if you want to put decent amounts of money on it. So I think honestly, I think Prime Factor is one of the better odds on here. I'm looking at it right now, 21-1. I think that's one of the better ones because if he makes the gate, Prime Factor will most likely be probably half that, maybe 10-1, something like that in the Derby, assuming that he continues to progress and goes along. And you know, Prate is another one where like, yeah, 48-1, I wouldn't be against taking a swing. You know what I mean? Like that's one of those where like that's a big enough odds where if you're okay with throwing $100 on it and you get back 4,800, yeah, that's worth it. You know?
Yeah, Aaron brings up what I was going to say about Prate. His breeding tells you, well, the way that he wins tells you they should try stretching him out. His breeding is, it's like they just looked at his breeding and went, oh, he obviously can't route. It's also nice that Brad Cox has Caddo River, Mandaloon, Essential Quality. He doesn't need to worry about trying to stretch Prate out. So if you can convince the owners to just let him try and sprint, you can make a shit ton of money at Saratoga this summer sprinting. You know, maybe that's what he does. We'll see what happens with that.
You can make a shitload of money sprinting at Saratoga if you're in the Derby too. We've seen that happen before.
Yes, we have. Yeah. So, anyways, I agree with Dennis's play with Prime Factor. He actually opened at 30-1. So you saw him go from 30-1 to 21-1 without racing. He just has that one debut race to go with. And personally, it would be very good for Mike and I if your bet on Prime Factor pays off.
And the one thing I would say is if you are getting involved in these pools, I highly, highly recommend you check, depending on what state you're in, what books you can get fixed odds on the Derby as well. One of the things I hate about these pools is that you can't get guaranteed or locked in your odds. You're kind of like, it's down to that post time again, where someone could put a huge bet in right before and it completely messes up all of the odds. I would much rather in these future type bets know what I'm getting when I'm putting my money down. Like I want to know, am I going to get 50-1 or is that going to get bet? Like I don't want to have, put Prime Factor in at 30-1 and then, fall asleep and wake up the next morning and realize someone bet him with 5 minutes left and I end up with 21-1 and I have no way of getting out of that ticket when I could have got it online at 30-1, something like that. So I always would recommend if you're going to play these pools, make sure you shop around a little bit if you have the ability to and see what you can get that horse at places like FanDuel, at places like, regulated online books to see if you can find a way to get a better price that you're locked in on versus a pari-mutuel price.
I put $2 to win on him because I made money off of the live bankroll. I had $2 extra to my name. So, no, I'm just kidding. I had a lot more than that. But I literally, my balance, the last digit was 2. And I was like, F it. And I looked, he was 28-1. So I put $2 to win on Prime Factor to win the Derby. Now he's 21-1. I want my money back.
Yeah.
Big difference there.
Can you cancel the bet? Does that work? Does it work like that? Because it's still, no.
All right, that's going to do this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thank you so much for joining us as we talked about a little different, our takeaways from the Pegasus World Cup. I hope that you guys had a good time, a profitable time like we did. If you didn't, I really hope that I didn't make you feel bad about it because I know sometimes if you had a bad weekend and hearing other people have a great one, it can be a little hard to hear. So I do want to say thank you to everybody who's been tagging along with us. Hopefully you learned some stuff. Mike, I'm so sorry we breezed over it, but there was one race at California real quick that you wanted to touch on that is something very important to take handicapping into next weekend.
Yeah, so the Gregorian Chant, a horse that ran a 6 furlong sprint, I don't know if it was a feature, but it was a $75,000 Clockers Corner Stakes on Sunday. We've been talking about, and Magic specifically has been texting me stats about how good the speed has been on the turf. I've mentioned how good it's been at going at 6 furlongs. Gregorian Chant was coming out of a 1.5 mile race and was dead last or like really dead last. I'm not sure which one you want to describe it with. Was 7 wide and was able to run down horses on the lead, sprinting 6 furlongs going on the turf. I immediately was like, Magic, I want to talk positively about a California turf horse. Can I do that on the show? And he was like, yeah, go ahead, Mike. So I'm bringing this up for 2 reasons. First off, this is the first time this horse has ever tried sprinting on the turf and could be a real threat if Gregorian Chant continues to take steps forward. So stable up Gregorian Chant, see where this horse comes back at. If it's a turf sprint, specifically at Santa Anita, and we saw this move, I'm really interested in this horse coming back. I think it could be a big time play. Second reason is someone closed on the turf sprinting. And now I texted Magic this, and he immediately said,
oh, sorry. There's a delay. It was a bad time for the lag to show up. No, we got rain Saturday night. We were waiting all week for rain to show up, and I had been texting you and Ricky, and I was like, there could be rain, there could be rain. And then we finally got it Saturday night. And what happened Sunday? Well, you saw horses being able to close. And I actually texted good friend of the show, Ruben Fuentes, and I said, hey, like from my eyes, it looks like that course suddenly got a lot better to close on. Not that speed can't hold, but it looks a lot better for it. And he said it's definitely softer than what Equibase listed it. So in their eyes, that's California good. That's probably New York firm. That's California good, what they were racing on Sunday. And we're supposed to get more rain middle end of this week too. So keep that in mind.
So moral of the story is that turf course plays to closers, or doesn't play to closers. It plays fair if it rains. So make sure you keep an eye on what the weather was like the night before, because I didn't realize it rained. I thought that was just an anomaly. Maybe it was the turf course was turning, and with that rain coming, maybe that's the reason. So I would definitely recommend, if you're going to play Santa Anita's, play the turf. Make sure you check out the weather right leading up to it, because you may see a difference in the turf, specifically with or without rain, whether or not closers are able to close, or whether or not you really need to hammer the speed.
Well, and I would love to sit here and tell you that I got that race correct, but I didn't. I was partially correct. I really thought that Phil D'Amato, in some form or fashion, was going to win that race. However, I put his stepdaughter, who rode the one horse that's not in his barn, on top, and that didn't pay off. But D'Amato, the actual two D'Amato horses that were in there, they got first and second. I should have done the horses instead of the person.
Just box it up D'Amato and call him home.
Coming up later this week, Mike and I will be back on Thursday with another Pick 4 sequence. Mike, it's Holy Bull weekend. You want to go to Gulfstream? They got a nice.
I don't want to go to Sam Houston.
Do you want to do Sam Houston Sunday? Because that's the big stakes days.
Oh, okay. We'll figure it out. We'll do either Gulfstream or Sam Houston. We'll figure it out. Either do Saturday or Sunday. Maybe we'll do a live show Sunday too. I got Aaron in the background here. Maybe we'll do like a live preview show for Sam Houston or something.
He's nodding his head. He says, yeah. Let's do, yeah. And the nice thing about Sam Houston, God bless you, Sam Houston, you're going to have those PPs out in plenty of time. So even though it's a day later, it's not going to screw us up. So if we end up going there either Saturday or Sunday, I love that. So coming up this week, Aaron will have the preview for the Holy Bull Stakes on the website. He better, or he's going to be fired. Just kidding, buddy. And then we've also got a little bit of lighter stuff, but the Selma bombs are going to keep rolling. Ricky's rockets are going to keep trying to fire hot. It's going to be a good week, and I'm excited to see what happens. Aaron, do you want to come on the show real quick? You've been hanging out in the background there. Welcome to the show. Hey, look at that. What is that you got there, Aaron?
Listen, I got done walking the dog, and Heather said, hey, go check the mail real quick. Look at this.
That's a sweet Cartman shirt.
Magic. You're my boy, Magic. I try to start feuds with you, but how can I feud with someone that gets me such a sweet gift? And you
gotta take those sleeves off.
It's got sleeves. No, I told him no sleeves. No tank tops. I need sleeves. I really do have noodle arms. So yeah, thank you, Magic. Wow, what a guy.
You're
what
welcome.
a guy you are.
So it's a thank you present, because if you missed it, last week on Tuesday, we had a shake for Fenway, and it was between John White's team and our team, and I showed up all ready for the fight for the claim to shake, and of course we lost it. And part of the act was I ripped off my sweatshirt, and I had on a tank, my workout tank that has that same logo on it. And so Aaron kept, after the show, texting me about how he loved that, and so yeah, I was like, all right, well, when I saw what happened with Fenway on Saturday, I said, you know what? I'm going to send Aaron a thank you, because he weighted it towards John, and it actually backfired. So thank you for doing that. For once, the cheating to get John White all the claims that he enters, it backfired. So thank you for that, sir.
Well, we really appreciate you cheating against us there.
First of all, you're very welcome, both of you. Second of all, there will be a shake tomorrow. Just spoiler alert. There's going to be – I may have 10-way shake. We'll see what happens. Third of all, I'm wearing the shirt tomorrow, Magic.
What's that?
I'm wearing the shirt on the show tomorrow on the draw.
Awesome.
So,
can we drop 3 horses and claim prevalence with all 3 to get 3 spots in there?
Yeah.
No, you can't.
Damn.
But you guys really need to work out a trade for the great one, because that's who you want out of Saturday. I keep telling you guys that.
Well, I heard John's got him.
No, Killer Bees have him. So go get him.
I want to shake for him.
Which is interesting. He was shaking with Michael Myers, who put in a claim for him as soon as he saw him go across the wire too. So
surely that hasn't happened in this league, right?
Well, that's going to do it with Magic Mike Show. For Aaron Halterman, Mike Somich, I'm Magic. Thank you so much, everybody. Sorry, Samich. I was just excited to be able to do the I've got the pointing thing down. I totally screwed this up. So that's Mr. Beefcake down there at the bottom. I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
We'll see you guys next week.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.